Giants, reality or legend? I do suppose we'll never know, however, we do know at the very least that big people exist. In this video I'm not quite sure what we're dealing with because we never see him. Is he a giant or is he just a really big man? Or is he just pretending to be big talking from a cave? Yes, you probably guessed it, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the lonely giant in the cave. Triggering this encounter isn't really that straightforward, so I'll explain how you do it, though you probably already know. But if you don't know, it's not quite as simple as going to a location and triggering the encounter right away, so I'll explain. The first thing that you'll need to do is make sure that you've studied 30 different animals. So in your compendium and the animals section, it needs to say at least 30 out of 178 discovered. You can do this by getting your binoculars out and scanning for wildlife. It takes a little while, to be fair to it, but if you engage in hunting in this game, then there's a good chance that you've already discovered enough animals. Either way, it can never hurt to make sure. Now, once that's done, the next thing you're going to want to do is head up to more or less central north of the map. You'll want to find the Wapiti Indian Reservation. From there you'll want to head down to the river just east of it. If the weather is anything but a clear day, then you're going to need to wait for a clear day. But on a clear day, once you've got 30 animals discovered, you should find some deer down by the river. If you get close to them, a flock of birds will fly off. Now what you're going to want to do is follow the birds, as they will lead you in the direction of the pathways to get to this location. They shouldn't be too difficult to follow, however if you're struggling, this is where they are taking you. To a rather remote spot up in the hills, quite a far distance east of where you found the flock of birds. For some reason the encounter here will not trigger without the flock of birds as far as I'm aware, but when you finally arrive at the destination which the birds are trying to lead you to, this is what you'll be met by.
Hello there, friend. How are you? I'm rather lonely. You see, I'm too big. I haven't got any friends because I'm too big.
Is that so?
Yes. Yes, it is so. That's sort of why I said it. That and because I was lonely and wanted to talk. Maybe we could be friends. I've always wanted a real friend. Someone to discuss the human condition with, you know?
I don't know much about that.
Neither do I. Be well, friend. Be well.
So at the spot up in the hills, we find a man in a cave. We cannot see him, we can only hear him. He says he's quite lonely, being a social outcast because of his size. He has a very strange demeanour in conversation, which makes me think that he doesn't have very much social practice, that much he's telling the truth about. To encounter the lonely giant again, we need to wait 3 to 4 in-game days. So go off gallivanting across the west for a couple of days, and then after a substantial amount of time, come back. When I did this second encounter, it appears to have glitched, otherwise this conversation makes no sense, but I'll roll it anyway. I arrived at the location and nothing happened for about a minute.
How have you been?
Okay, I suppose.
That's good. I've been lonely. Very lonely. I'm faced with a stark and unpleasant choice. Be lonely or get murdered. Not very exciting as it goes.
Huh. I suppose pick lonely?
Did you miss me?
I suppose so.
Yes, I missed you too. I've been quite lonely out here. One day, I long to have a wife. But women can be so cruel. Nobody wants large children. They eat too much. It's very sad.
And then the conversation just cut off. So it would appear as if we've become this big hermit's only friend. Is it only me, or is there a bit of a creepy vibe to this guy? Maybe we should go into the cave and see if we can find the man. It isn't supposed to be possible, however, if you get it just right, you can get onto the platform. And from there you'll notice there's a little bit of a gap where you can crawl through into the cave itself. On the inside, I found nothing. It's very obvious that we're not supposed to be back here. There's no NPC back here. There could be an invisible NPC which emits the voice, as players are supposedly able to kill said invisible NPC, but there is no present model for the Lonely Giant. We can't just encounter the Lonely Giant as Arthur Morgan though, as in the epilogue we can come back. Here is the dialogue that you will get as John Marston.
Hello, little fella.
Hi,
What's your name?
John. John Marston, usually. Who are you?
Well, I'm not telling you that. I like to be anonymous. I like to blend in. That's a joke. I'm well known for my humor, you see. Anyway, be well. Hello there, friend. How are you? Don't be afraid.
People think I'm a monster.
But I'm not. It's John, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you well?
Yes. How are you?
Happy and lonely, like everyone.
Sure.
Is it as bad as they say out there?
As who says?
As the animals?
Yeah.
I thought so. Anyway, be well.
What's very fascinating is, in the second encounter with the giant as John, he says it's John, isn't it? Before John even says anything, implying that he can see us. So he's watching us. He also mentions that he's known for his humour, though I thought he was a loner. Maybe others visit him too, or maybe he's just mentally clapped, which is my preferred theory. From the dialogue that you can have with this guy, it is very obvious that he is not socially equipped. He claims the reason why he doesn't get along with society is because of his size, though it is entirely possible that there could be some other reason, something more sinister perhaps. Some people speculate that this giant could be a Sasquatch, stalking the woods at night, eating babies. But you'd be correct in stating that he sounds nothing like how Red Dead Sasquatches sound.
You eat babies. You have to survive. Everyone knows that. Ain't your fault.
We eat berries and mushrooms, you fool!
I know it's Undead Nightmare, it's technically not canon so it doesn't count, but let's just say for consistency's sake. There's also a really strange echo on this giant's voice, which I would argue is a tad peculiar even for being in a cave.
Nice to see you again.
And you?
How have you been?
Okay, I suppose.
That's good. I've been lonely. Very lonely. I'm faced with a stark and unpleasant choice. Be lonely or get murdered.
I mean, it does sound a bit cave-ish, but it also sounds like it could possibly be a microphone of sorts. Maybe it's a ghost. It is curious. Who are we dealing with in this cave? That is the big question here. Why did nature lead us directly to him? As implied by some dialogue, it would appear as if he's quite good at communicating with animals, potentially to an inhuman degree. And why did those birds lead us, of all people, there? And what's the significance of having to study 30 different animals? And also, one big question is, this guy seems to believe that if he tried to reintegrate with society, he'd be murdered, hence why he chose to be lonely instead. Being significantly massive in size would likely get you perceived as a freak by society by 19th century standards, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that being a part of society would mean you're deaf. Surely there's got to be some other factor involved. Maybe this lonely giant isn't quite as friendly and innocent as he may want you to believe. Maybe he's an actual giant, as opposed to just a huge human. Then I remembered, on the path up to the summit of Mount Shan, you can find the remains of a giant, by the looks of it. One far too large to be human. Maybe these remains are that of one of our guy's species. All I know is there's just something about this encounter that creeps me out a little bit. But would you look at that, this video is getting a bit long. So I suppose that concludes today's video on the lonely giant in the cave in Red Dead Redemption 2. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section. So thank you all for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff, that would be super appreciated. And I do suppose I'll see you all very soon with another video at some point.